All right, guys, today we are going to be reacting to why Americans love living in Germany. Let's jump in.
Somewhere around 120,000 Americans live in Germany.
Damn.
Which is about 5% of all Americans that live outside of the United States. And I was really surprised to learn that behind our geographical neighbors, Mexico and Canada, and the country that we declared independence from, the United Kingdom, Germany has the most American expats in the world. And I am one of these expats. And I actually did the math of the guys that I have gotten to know well here in Germany, and around 80% of them have decided to prolong their stay in Germany and live here for at least a couple of years, or decide to live here indefinitely. Guys hating Germany and leaving after one season to never return seems to be the rare exception. And over these years, I've come to the conclusion that in general, Americans love living in Germany. I forgot, I wanted to ask you about living in Germany. Are you shocked that you're still in Germany after 11 years? Well, this actually surprised me quite a bit,
crazy.
because in the States, sadly, Germany just doesn't have the same reputation that a lot of other European countries have. You always hear about people romanticizing and dreaming about retiring and moving to Italy or the south of France or Portugal.
They're always talking about Italy and Greece and Spain. One of those three. It's Italy, Greece, or Spain. That's it. Or Portugal, yeah. But I think it has to do with the cold weather. Yeah, our weather is rough, man. Our cold weather is rough. Our winters are rough. So I'm thinking, because a lot of Americans, when they retire, they go down south. We're talking about not even Texas. They go straight to Florida to retire. So I'm just thinking that in their mind, they might be thinking like, when I retire, I just want to go to a warm place. Italy, Spain, Greece. You see what I'm saying? They're not thinking about Germany.
Or even these people who have a vision of a hut or cottage in Scotland or Ireland. I'm one of those people. But you very rarely hear people romanticizing and dreaming about moving to Germany. Yet, it's the most popular country in Europe for Americans to live in. So in this video, I am going to dive into some reasons that I think why, despite not having a romanticized reputation like some other European countries do, Americans absolutely love living in Germany.
A beautiful country, man. Beautiful.
So we know that the United States is made up of different immigrant groups from different countries that came over to the States in different waves. Germans came to the United States mostly in the mid to late 1800s and early 1900s. And today, German Americans are actually the largest ethnic group in the United States. There are 43 million Americans, or about 15% of the country, who identify as German American. Percent of the country.
Puerto Ricans, Vineland, Millville, Britain, Jersey. That makes no sense. Let's see, Mexican, 10%, Irish. Damn, Irish is high, bro. Irish is very high. Polish. I thought Polish was going to be a little higher, but no.
Country who identify as German American. I am actually one of those people. I did a DNA test, and turns out, as well as my Italian heritage, I am about 1/3 German. With my heritage coming from the Southwest German region, which is kind of cool because I live here now. So there's a lot of German influence and traditions.
That's funny, 28%. Oh, I'm German. Okay, let's go. In
the USA. Stuff that I didn't even realize until I came here came from Germany. Stuff like kindergartens, or most of our Christmas traditions that come from Germany. So I think for a lot of Americans, when coming to Germany, although it is a foreign country and foreign culture, there is this slight level of familiarity here. And I know it's something that I felt when coming to Germany, and still kind of feel. It feels like you're visiting your long-lost cousins or something. And I think a lot of Americans share this feeling, especially the 43 million Americans who have German-American heritage. I also remember getting recruited by multiple teams when I was first deciding where to play in Europe, and I talked to some coaches who had coached all throughout Europe, and they said the easiest place for Americans to adapt to in general is Germany. And that actually was kind of influential in my decision to come here in the first place. You know, I'd never been to Europe before. I was a little bit worried about coming to a new continent, a new culture, but hearing that, hey, although it's different, Germany is the easiest for Americans to adapt to, that kind of stuck in my mind.
That is way, way interesting. And I think, well, makes sense. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Culturally, a lot of these regions, they look very German, guys. They're not like the mainland of German, right? But you can see it. You can see some of the German structures. Some of they have. Sometimes we go around my neighborhood and they still have some of those little medieval style houses, and I'm like, wow, we have those things here. So even there's some structures that they're made by German heritage. Does that make sense? Some of the churches around here very German. So I it's like me, Puerto Ricans, our culture is very Spaniard. Very Spaniard. So every time that we go to Spain, we feel a real connection, a straight connection. A straight connection, very strong connection when we go to Spain. Because a lot of our areas, they're so Spaniard-ish, right? Even our way of just dealing with stuff, the way we talk, the way we refer to things, we're very well connected. So I would imagine a lot of these places that have a strong German heritage, they'll feel the same way. They'll feel the same way. I agree with him.
Helped me make the decision. So, because of Germany's huge influence on a lot of the United States, and many Americans having German heritage themselves, there is this foreign yet familiar feeling when coming here that a lot of Americans really like. Now, this next point I've been thinking about for quite a long time, and I strongly believe that this has a huge impact on Americans' experiences here in Germany. And nobody ever talks about it. But first, an important message. Now, guys, here you can see me accessing Wi-Fi in a public... Alright, back to the video. Happiness...
Yo, his music is very good. Shout out to Now, man.
...equals reality minus expectations. So I mentioned it in the intro, but sadly, Germany does not really have the glamorous reputation in the States that other countries do. In fact, Germany is often the butt of the joke in a lot of American media, TV shows, and movies. For example, Laura and I the other day were watching the show Silicon Valley, and there's this weird character, and to make him even weirder and stranger and creepier, they gave him the trait of speaking German in his sleep.
Nicht mehr sehen! Ranschleichen und in die Kehle aufschlitzen.
Oh my god, I feel guilty for that, man, for a second. Yeah, there's a lot of movies that they portray Germans like that. Even they have memes, the Hitler memes. There's a channel just dedicated. You know, there's a movie about Hitler, and he likes to just basically just. I say Hitler. Oh my god, you don't do anything stupid. But there's a channel that used it's like a movie in the early 2000s where a lot of people are using like a segment of that movie, and they're putting a lot of memes and they're putting a lot of stories, and it makes it very funny, man. So that's Americans that when they hear that German accent, they just make fun of it.
So the weird guy, of course, is the guy that speaks German in his sleep. I also think it was an easy move to make Germans the bad guy in a lot of movies, especially in the 20th century.
Good evening, Fräulein.
The bar is closed.
We are not thirsty.
Now, don't even get me started on this guy. This is Dwight Schrute, one of the main characters on the US version of the TV show The Office. He's known for his German heritage and a ton of weird German customs and traditions.
Oh, judgment is nigh, for der Bellschnickel ist I.
In the folklore of southwestern Germany.
Yes, of course.
Okay, great.
He's the weird guy.
Yo. The Office. I saw that show so many times, man. It's so good, and it's true. I think he goes over the top because supposedly his family's come from a long heritage, like a long German heritage, and they do some weird tradition. I think he goes over the top
on the show that you laugh at. And this was the 4th most popular TV show in the US during the 2000s.
Yeah.
But there is a positive on this. That means that a lot of times Americans' expectations for Germany are quite low. And we know, of course, the famous mathematical equation that happiness equals your reality minus your expectations. And when you have lower expectations for something, it is easier to be happy and satisfied with something. And I think Germany does a great job at exceeding a lot of Americans' expectations. For example, I think a lot of Americans expect Germans to be weird, creepy, cold, and unfunny. And then when they come here and find out that is not really the case, they are pleasantly surprised. Yep. Oh, Germans are cooler and funnier than I expected them to be. Expectations exceeded. The train system. In the USA, we have an almost non-existent passenger train system. Now, I know the Germans love to complain about their train system, as do...
Yeah, you don't want to know. Good luck going from one area to... I mean, it's just incredible. It's so bad. I don't know how to... I even know how we haven't even connected the entire... You know, like, the entire nation. We haven't really connected the entire nation. I cannot go from New York to Washington State if I wanted to, if I buy a ticket. Or from Wisconsin to Utah. You see what I'm saying? It's very hard.
Now, actually...
We were just on the train back from Hamburg, and it broke. So the train's canceled, now we gotta find a new train.
But for an American first coming to Germany, just the fact that there are trains available, being able to jump from city to city on train is exceeding our expectations. Yep. Even though oftentimes nowadays those trains are slow, delayed, and expensive. Let's figure it out, Deutsche Bahn. But hey, for the American first coming over here, it exceeds our expectations. Plus points for Germany.
Good point.
I think another point where Germans exceed Americans' expectations is in speaking English. One of the most common questions I get in the States when people find out that I live in Germany is, oh man, can Germans even speak English? Now, people really are unaware that Germans are very good at English. In fact, 64% of Germans are proficient in English, and that number only serves to increase in the younger generation. And this 64% actually translates to something like 54 million Germans that are proficient in English, which is outright more proficient English speakers than any other country in Europe besides the UK.
They're smart people, man. They're smart people. And based on some of the videos that we reacted, they know multiple languages on top of that. So they're killing it. They're killing it.
It gets kind of annoying and cliche seeing Germans portrayed certain ways in American media, but in a weird way, it actually serves to benefit Germany because it lowers Americans' expectations for the people and the country, and they're often pleasantly surprised when coming here. So, Americans' general lack of expectations for Germany leads us to being pleasantly surprised in many areas of German life when we come here. In the United States, there is no off button. If you want your whole life to be about grinding and work, hey, that's great. But if you want to step back, relax, and recharge, well, that is less of an option in the States.
Man, that's
you run the risk of falling behind. And in the USA, a lot of people are unfortunately conditioned to feel like their value as a human being and their identity comes solely from their job. I mean, take a look at the federally mandated vacation days between Germany and the USA. Americans are not legally entitled to any vacation days. It is up to the employer. Now, most employees get somewhere around 10 vacation days a year. Compare that to Germany, where German employers are legally...
whoa, now you forgot this. Not only maybe 10 days in a year, they have to approve those days, man. They can deny those days. They can deny those days. Then not only you don't even have control of those days, they have control. You don't even have control. Man, I hated that so bad, so bad.
Obligated to give their employees 24 paid vacation days a year. Most Germans actually get closer to 30 paid vacation days a year. And don't even get me started on all of the holidays. And I think these numbers tell a pretty interesting story, and that is that in Germany, it is totally an option for your identity to be separate from your job. In America, it is a lot harder to make this distinction. They say this all the time: Americans live to work, where Germans work to live. This really became apparent to me in the last 7 years while playing American football here. You know, most of my teammates and coaches were guys who worked full-time jobs, but they were able to have this whole other identity outside of their work. They were able to be a football coach, or they were able to be a football player. You know, they could take some of their vacation days so that we could go on away game trips or practice camps, and you could really have this identity outside of work. This is not really something
that's very
that
important,
is so
man. That is so important. The way he break it down, it's so important, man.
In the States, I think
so important because it's true. You want to have, man, you hear a story about people just working their shiitake off, and it's very unhealthy because they develop a high level of cortisol, so they get fat, diabetes complications. You know, there's a lot of things on top of that. So we have to do this. Is something that I like about Germany.
That it would be almost impossible for people that I know working in the States to have a full identity of being a part of a football team for 7 months a year and have that be separate from their job. So I just think it's a much more realistic thing in Germany and something that Americans really like.
Yep.
Frankly put, it is simply easier to have a more balanced and comfortable life in Germany than it is in the States. And I think a lot of Americans coming from a hustle culture really find peace in that.
All right, guys, so these are some of the reasons why I think Americans love living in Germany. I know all of these kind of played a factor into me falling in love with living here. If you have any other reasons, if you're an American living in Germany, or if you're a German that lived in the States, I would love to hear your take on how it is living in another country. All right, guys.
Great video, man. Great video. He has great points, man. Because he knows how to break it down nicely. A lot of these Americans that live in Germany, they do a great job just breaking things down. Some of them, they just went back to the States, but they can just balance things out as well. Good job, man. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear you guys' opinions. I will see you next one.